Chiron in the third house. In this video, I'm going to be discussing Chiron in the third house, everything you need to know about this placement and how to master this placement. Now, keep in mind, every single thing that I discuss may not apply to you if you have this placement, but for the most part, everything that I discuss is directly related to the natal Chiron in the third house experience, all right? So let's discuss everything that is associated with natal Chiron in the third house. And I'd like for you to stick around all the way to the end of the video so you can learn about the services that I provide. All right, let's begin. Now, when you have Chiron in the third house, this placement indicates having wounds associated with siblings, lower education, meaning your K through 12 education, and your local environment and neighborhood. Chiron tells us what our wounds are associated with. The third house has to do with siblings, lower education, your K through 12 experience, and your local environment and neighborhood. Now, this can manifest in many different ways. Maybe you had, maybe you grew up in a very rough neighborhood. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you had to grow up in a house where you had 8 siblings and it was very cramped. This can manifest in many different ways, but this is what your wounds are associated with. You may have had difficulties with siblings growing up and experienced bullying during your K through 12 learning experience. When I say K through 12, I mean kindergarten through 12th grade. And the third house has to do with siblings. Again, it has to do with siblings. So you may have had difficulties with siblings and experienced bullying and tough experiences during your K through 12 learning experience. This placement indicates fights and difficulties with neighbors as well. Now, this may be an issue when you're younger, and it may also be an issue as you get older. And for example, you get your own apartment and you may, develop some kind of resentment towards neighbors and actually want to live isolated away from neighbors where you don't have any neighbors. You may have had difficulties with learning, speaking, language, and writing growing up. The third house has to do with learning, speaking, language, and writing. Okay, and Chiron tells us our difficulties, our wounds. So you may have had difficulties with learning, speaking, language, and writing growing up, and you had to overcome these difficulties. Learning, writing, communicating, and speaking becomes healing for you as you get older. Okay, so when you overcome your difficulties with learning, speaking, language, and writing, that becomes healing for you as you get older. Helping others to improve their difficulties with learning, speaking, and writing is healing for you. Chiron tells us, okay, these are the difficulties that I have. These are the wounds that I have. And then I go on to help others with those same difficulties. Okay, so you're the type of person, if you have this placement, not only do you, experience difficulties with learning, writing, communicating, and speaking, you go on to help others with those same difficulties. And it makes you feel good about yourself. It feels healing. Getting into careers that require certifications and or a trade is also healing for you as well. And another thing that I forgot to add is that being a teacher, for example, a lower education teacher, teaching from kindergarten through 12th grade, also feels like a healing experience for you as well. But definitely getting into a certification or trade career would be really good for you if you have this placement. When you have this placement, this is similar to having natal Chiron in Gemini because Gemini rules the third house. So if you have this placement, you want to make sure you study natal Chiron in Gemini as well because Gemini rules the third house and this information applies to you as well. I did a full video breaking down natal Chiron in Gemini. I'm going to drop a link for that in the description box. Make sure you check that out because that applies to you as well. And this is pretty much everything you need to know about natal Chiron in the third house. All right, now before I let you go, I'd like to discuss the services that I provide. I do chart readings, transit readings, synastry readings, and career readings. You can email me at astrologyztv@gmail.com to schedule, or you can find me at theAZTV on IG. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Thank you for watching. You take